So today I got a new guest, Jonathan Santry from John Santry Martial Arts, who is a professional, an ex-pro MMA fighter, bare knuckle boxer, who does the doors with me as well, and who's also a stuntman who's been working on a lot of major Hollywood movies and different movies. He'll be able to tell us about all this. So I'm gonna bring him on now without waiting.
Hi, Julian, you alright, mate? How you
How
doing?
you doing, brother? You good?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, man. Tired.
Yes, man. Yeah, we're all there. It's not enough hours in the day, innit? Like too much shit to do, not enough hours in the day. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, bottom line, definitely. And the new baby as well, who apparently does not like to sleep, so ever.
Well, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know any babies that likes to sleep.
No, no. But
Yeah,
anyway, it's
yeah.
all good. Happy days. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. As you can see, man, we're getting established with all them podcasts. I got a lot of really good people on the
All the
waiting
one was
list.
Billy the other night was really, really good.
Yeah,
I
we
watched
had a really good chat with Billy the other night, yesterday, and we're gonna do some more with Billy Brown. And I got other people. I got Richard Dimitri coming on as well.
it.
I got our common friend Ray Nicholas.
You won't be able to speak to Ray online, mate. What you need is a Ouija board and a salt circle. Probably a small goat to sacrifice, then you'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Ray's great. I got other good people lined up as well. Like, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Cool. Look forward
So
to it.
I thought today that we could have a chat about your career as a martial artist, and start with your martial art background. If you want to tell us a little bit, what I know you've been doing martial arts for a long time, just as have I. So let us know.
Yeah, man. Started training in 1987 at the age of 8 in judo,
Yeah,
and moved on from there to traditional Shitoryu karate, and I still practice that to this day. I've got a 6th dan in that.
yeah,
Um, Along the way, I've taken in loads and loads of other arts. I started boxing at the age of about 17, um, and obviously, went in, competed extensively in kickboxing. Um, so I was a 5-time British, like they call it light continuous, which is supposedly semi-contact kickboxing, a bit like Olympic boxing. We got the head guards on, but Olympic boxing is still, full contact with the head guard.
yeah.
Light continuous. The theory is you're supposed to pull the punches, but it never really quite works out that way. It's like,
Mm.
yeah. But I had 5 times British champion in that, and then I progressed into sort of amateur full contact. Had a British silver medal for WACO in 2002, and a world bronze medal for the WKA 2002 was the world bronze medal for the WKA. I think 2006, I think it was my WACO British silver. And then, went on to compete in professional kickboxing, and I was the number 4 ranked WACO Pro Cruiserweight. That was certainly a European ranking. I don't think it was a world ranking, but certainly a European ranking. I contested professional British and world titles for Michael Elmsley for the WPKA World Kickboxing title in 2004. Unfortunately, I got stopped in the 4th round. I was winning, and I got stopped in the 4th round. Ran onto a beautiful check hook, so fair play. These things happen, especially guys of my size at it. And then I fought John Durant for the vacant WACO British full contact kickboxing title in 2008. And I lost to John on points. John's really, really great fighter. He was he's only just recently retired. He's my age. I don't know
Yeah.
how he's still doing it. But he only just recently retired last year, and he had a version of the ISCA world title. I think he dropped down to super middleweight. I know that he's worked with some really high level fighters as a coach. He's got a few guys who have competed in Bellator, worked with some pro boxers, got a gym down in London. So yeah, that was like my kickboxing thing. I've also got a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've done a couple of years of catch wrestling. I've done some Thai boxing training. And the other main one that I do that I've got a grade in is traditional Malayan Kung Fu, Hok Kuen Do,
Oh,
which my sensei, a guy called Dave Rogers, I think he's 86 now. and he can still break a 2-inch board freestanding from about 4 inches of distance away. It's like the core strength and the explosivity is just something else. And that's at 8'6". You know, it's not like he used to be able to do it. It's like he still did it the other week. He's like, okay, right, push it to shame. But yeah, so I've got a deep background in traditional martial arts and the more contemporary stuff. And obviously, you know, these days I work a lot of combatives, you know, with yourself, amongst other people, you know. But I always have, even the trad martial arts stuff I did. My two main instructors in the Shitorio were John Salt and Dave Morris. Dave Morris was an ex-policeman, and he was, you know, involved in a lot of really violent physical encounters doing that job. Back in the days when the police in this country actually did something to protect the public and uphold the common law, as opposed to just, you know,
and not the pedophiles running the world.
Yeah, you know, do you for 35 and a 30 and that sort of stuff, and tick those boxes. Love you, lad. Story. And then my other sensei, John Salt, it's John in his younger days was just a bit of a football hooligan. He was just a bit of a football hooligan in his younger days, and then he calmed down, and martial arts was one of these sort of deciding factors in that. But in seriousness, what he did have was, again, a ton of, you know, wealth of real life experience. So even in those early days when I was training in the traditional martial arts, there was always like a heavy emphasis on sort of self-protection and reality. And it was guys that had been there and done it. So don't get me wrong, as I've trained with, you know, so many people over the years, obviously my techniques have become much more refined and the tactics have become much more refined. But even back then, the stuff that I was getting taught, you know, most of it still stands now, and it worked. It worked for me. And I, you know, I think that's so important that, you know, I mean, especially if it's self-protection, if there's people out there claiming to teach self-protection, if you haven't been there and bought that t-shirt, you know, and worn that t-shirt, then no business at all teaching that. It's one thing teaching, like, you know, recreational martial arts and fitness. Doesn't really matter if you've had a fight or not in your life. Most people just want kickbox exercise or something these days anyway, because they like the idea a lot more than the reality, you know. And that's fine, you know, if you want to use it as a tool for fitness and what have you, and have some fun, that's absolutely cool. That is definitely an aspect of martial art training and what have you. It's not so much martial though, is it? It's more sportive and recreational. But no, the traditional martial arts is good. And the Hok Kuen Do Kung Fu as well, the Malayan Kung Fu, that's like all the animal styles, which has got nothing to do with physically imitating the animals. That was Jackie Chan around in the 60s, 70s, and sending everyone up and doing a brilliant job because he's incredible. And I pray to him at Christmas, you know, he's amazing. But it was that was comedy. Yeah, the actuality of it is it's more about different body mechanics. So it's actually very cool. It's training different attributes. In that stuff like your tiger style is extremely close range striking. It's short, sharp stuff, and it's generally for, like, apart from explosive short range inside of sort of normal punching distance, like it's great for the door. It's worked for me very well.
Even if you look into modern day self-protection things like what I do, like urban combatives, and you look at Lee Morrison stuff, for example, there's a lot of tiger stuff in there, you know, grabbing the eyes, raking the eyes down, all the fish hooking, all the that's all coming from the tiger style, you know? People don't even make the correlation, but when you see old masters doing their movements in the empty, it looks like a dance. But when you do it explosively with the aggression, you're like, oh, right, this is where it belongs.
Yeah, I mean, traditional martial art teaches by shape. You know, that's emphasized in the Karate Kid films, you know, the way he gets them doing these seemingly unrelated tasks.
Put the jacket, take it down.
And then, but you're repping the shapes that form these techniques. So is traditional martial art the most direct way of learning to fight? No, is it hell? Right. But I love it. I love the artistic side of it. I love the form. Same way some people like yoga or whatever. I like traditional martial arts and I like Tai Chi and I practice them more regularly. But yeah, I mean, if you, in terms of sort of introducing people, not everyone is a born fighter. You know, I mean, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are terrified by anything that, you know, pertains to violence, and, you know, with good reason. you know.
For sure. It's not pretty, is
So,
it?
yeah, and sometimes, you know, traditional martial art and just building those shapes and just introducing them, you know, in a fairly controlled manner, that can be a nice entry for
Yeah.
people. The arts,
I
and then
think
you
that
can,
most of us had that entry, like with the traditional martial art. That's how most of us started.
I'll be honest with you, most of the best fighters I know had a deeply traditional background and that sort of regimented military drilling. And the other thing I will say is, in regards to real life fighting, there's a couple of things. So I don't think I put a pair of gloves on to hit bags or pads till I was 15, 16 and started getting into
Yeah,
kickboxing.
same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always trained bare knuckle, and we always did sabaki sparring, you know, knockdown, like Kyokushin,
Yeah.
low kicks and knees. And that was bare knuckle. We weren't punching each other in the face, but we were kicking each other in
Punching
the
to the
face.
body, yeah.
Grab one-handed and knee to the head. That's all legal, but you can't punch because that was an illegal street fight. So there you go. So I've always, you know, had that aspect of it. But even just doing the line work, the fact that you are practicing going from a dead stop to exploding is a much more the kind of body mechanic you want to be practicing for a real life situation, because
Yeah.
in there, God knows how many times, it's almost always conversation range. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or
In
like,
your face range.
yeah, either that or you've been ambushed, you've been jumped on, you know, someone's attempted to mug
Yeah.
you. That's happened to me a couple of times where you know, sometimes I saw the threat and I was ready for it, and sometimes I didn't see the threat and it was just out of the doorway and boom. So what I'm saying is you're almost always going to be in that super close range in reality.
Yeah.
And you're not warmed up and you're not on your toes, and you know it's not a sport. You're just going to explode and go. There's a lot more pressure on you than in a sportive situation. There's all this sort of stuff. So that body mechanic of being sort of that rigid type line work, when you say drilling basic Gyakuzuki punch or whatever, you know, you're at your stance and you're rigid and you're solid and then you're exploding. But you're training that kind of dead stop to go mechanic, and that is exactly it's exactly what I train now. I just do it in a more refined and a more direct way if I'm working with the Bob dummy or whatever, and you know, working those explosive blitzes from inside of close range. But yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot to be said for martial arts, traditional martial arts training, in terms of like the attribute training, the different the thing that the animal styles did to me. I started training in that when I was like 18 years old, and again taught me how to relax. My close range striking wasn't that great. But like I say, the tiger stuff is all about like the karate sort of double hip. It's about being extremely relaxed, because obviously if you're tense and you try and push through a strike, okay, if you've got the arm's length of a punch, you can throw a bit of a pushy punch, and if you're reasonably physical person, you can still make it work. Yeah, but you want that. The more relaxed you are, the more velocity you have. The more velocity you have, the more power you have. Right, and if you've got distance to throw a punch or a kick, you know, then you've got some time and some distance to develop that power. But like at close range, you've got to be extremely relaxed. You've got to be developing maximum velocity, and you've got to be, you know, you've got to have mega core strength as well, because, like I say, it's about weight shifting, velocity, and core strength when you
mass plus speed equal power.
Yeah.
You know Peter Constantine.
Yeah.
You look at Peter Constantine double hip movements before he actually strikes, and the power that he's able to generate in his shots, you know, being just like a really close shot, or the elbows, or even the shoulder strikes and the stuff that he does just from the double hip movements, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I did one seminar with Peter Constantine and Jeff Thompson. It was one of the Martial Arts Illustrated Super seminars years ago. It was cool. And that was one of the things we covered. Obviously, I've covered that myself anyway, but that's an amazing mechanic. And just learning how to relax and not just be sort of all the time. That said, then, you know, the animal styles, there is like the Panther system, and that is just all about balls to the wall, everything into every shot, heavy hits. I mean, it's not anything like, there's no magic to it. There's no, you know, there's no mystic magic nonsense going on. It's just, they based these styles off of different animals' body mechanics more than anything else, and their, you know, natural styles of, you know, fighting. And then of course, like I said, you got Hong Kong movies, and Hollywood got hold of it. And
we're gonna get into that.
I'll come back to that later, man. Yeah, that's the
tell you what though, just to kind of get a bit of structure to that interview. So you kind of went flying through all three stuff that I was going to go little by little into them. So we got a good idea about your background, which is good. So there's a lot of traditional martial arts in there, and then combat sports related stuff. So boxing, kickboxing, grappling. So that's all great stuff. So when we were talking about real life combat, the things, for example, something that really gives you the edge. So, obviously we're working the doors together. So we know that the place where we're working, we get to see action, every weekend.
Yeah.
This is something, and that's what we were talking about with Billy Brown yesterday. That if you really want to know what works for yourself, you really need to get out there and test it. I know it's not pretty. It's not something that you look to do. You shouldn't really go on the doors and look to go, right, who am I going to knock out tonight? Or who am I going to choke out tonight? Or do you know what I mean? But it happens. Those sort of thing happens. And really being able to deal with the adrenaline and the stress, the adrenal stress and all that stuff. So if we were to speak a bit about the doors, I know you've done the doors for longer than I have. So tell me a bit about your career as a doorman, John.
Oh man, started working as a nightclub bouncer at the age of 18. Started off working down in Blackpool on the front down there. It was at the Palace nightclub. I think at the time it was like one of the biggest ones in the country. There was like 3,000 capacity. There was like 30 door lads on. There was like 10 of us in-house. I was one of the in-house. And then there was like 20 agency every weekend. And that was interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I've done it on and off now for 25 years. I've just worked out. Kind of weird because when I started doing it, I was 18. I was the age of everybody going clubbing. And now when I stood on the door, it's all my mates' kids coming in. It's really weird. Very old. I've not done it solidly for 25 years. I've probably done, I don't know, 12, 13 years, something, if you added it all up, a few years on, a few years off. But I'm back doing it now because I'm skint like everybody else in this country. So.
But we're having fun though. We're having fun.
Oh, yeah, we are having fun. It's a great team and what have you. And actually, to be honest, it's kind of plugged a gap for me, really, because I'll be honest with you, I was so depressed when I had to go back to doing it last October.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, we can cover that later, but I've been working regularly in film and TV for on and off for 10 years now, and really regularly for the last sort of 2.5 years. I didn't stop working, went from one project to the next, and I love doing that. But at the moment, that's just sort of come to a natural halt. That's the way it is. It's sporadic work, incredibly well paid and everything, and it's the coolest thing ever. It's what I wanted to do when I was 5, and it's great. But it's as and when. But also, I'm needing a hip replacement, which is going to happen later this year. Probably going to go for the hip resurfacing, which is what the Thai boxer John Wayne Parr had, and the tennis player Andy Murray. Looking at the pros and cons, but anyway, that's by the by. So anyway, that work wound down, and my gym business, which is starting to go really well again now, thankfully, but COVID killed that off, and it took an awful long time to build it back. Also, the fact that in my area, which is a relatively small catchment area, maybe 15,000 people, there are I think there's something ridiculous, like 6 full-time martial art and boxing gyms in a 10-mile radius now. It's absolute nonsense. And of those 6, there's myself and one other that are halfway decent, and the rest are a bunch of cowboys that shouldn't be anywhere near it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry, truth. But hey, it is what it is. Anyway, all that aside, sort of fought through that. I had to go back on the doors, needed some money, depressed as hell. But about 2 weeks into it, it's like, it was just like I'd never left. It's a familiar, space in my head. It's a familiar role. And I just slipped straight.
You never really forget it, innit?
It's helpful in a way because I retired from fighting last February at 44.
And I remember when you had your last fight,
Yeah, man.
Nice bare knuckle.
Finished on an English title, won an English title. I loved that. It was a great tear-up, great fight. good opponent, a lad called Aaron Gorn, he's been featured on a few of the documentaries on Vice and Netflix and things. A well-known fighter, and 11 years younger than me, which everyone's younger than me these days. Let's be honest, you know what I mean? But no, it was a good fight and good win and brilliant way to finish. But the fighting has very much sort of provided an identity for me for most of my life. Like I said, I started training at 8. I started competing at 9. And I've literally been doing this more of my life than I haven't. And the fighting does definitely take over and become an identity. If, for instance, like myself, someone who struggled with the mental health over the years, never really had a strong sense of myself. So
that's another thing I wanted to speak to you about. I wanted to speak to you about before we got to the mental health bit.
Yeah, we'll come back. They're all interlinked, my friend. What we'll do is
it's all interconnected. I was going to speak about the mindset. So we speak a lot about mindset. In our line of work, mindset is really important. And so be it the mindset that it takes to jump on the ring and to fight and to compete, and then the mindset that it takes to stand on the doors and to have to face real life violence. How would you say that these type of mindset relate to each other? The mindset of the ring fighting and the mindset of the pavement arena, like Geoff Thompson likes to call it.
The ring fighting is, or cage fighting or whatever, the competitive combat sport. It's great in that it helps desensitize you to the effects of adrenaline. That's a huge thing. You just get used to performing at a high level under intense adrenaline. And that's great. That transfers to the real world very well. Obviously, competing in things like bare knuckle and MMA and full contact kickboxing and boxing and things like I have, the ability to take a blow and not be lost, because you're the same. I once or twice in real life, I've been blindsided. It's been kicking off left, right, and center.
Yeah.
I've been blindsided. I've been hit. My initial reaction is my body innately recognizes what's happened. I know I've been hit. The first thing I'm trying to do is locate where that's come from and counter it immediately. I don't think about that. My body does it for me because of years of competitive fighting. Whereas I've seen it time and again, sure you have. Most people get hit. They're in a different world.
Freeze.
Gone. They freeze at best, you know what I mean? And then
that
they get
state of emotional shock.
So there are those attributes. Real life, it's a strange one, the kind of adrenal release you're going to experience like on the door. I mean, if it's a serious and dangerous situation, which it has been a handful of times, then, it's real. So it's adrenal dump as well. You're going from 0 to, warp factor 10, in a split second. So it's that massive adrenal dump. There isn't that sort of same sort of build up that there is when you've got a competitive fight. Obviously, months before, you're in camp for 3 months before usually, so it's the slow adrenal release and the build to it and things. There are some bits that are extremely, different. But that said, no, I do see them as pretty complementary to each other, really. I don't really know if there's anything more you want me to say on that.
No, that's cool, man. I think as well that you need one side and you need the other side, and you got a lot of people that are like, they swear by the combat sports, and combat sports is the gospel truth, and that's everything that there is. And then you get people that are street scrappers or hard men of reputation that have been doing the doors for a long time, and they are like into the street aspect of everything. I sincerely, personally, I think that you need both. If you really want to be complete, you need to spend some time on the ring, and you need to spend some time in the real world, and and that's why obviously I didn't spend near as much time on the ring as you have, but I have a bit, and it did a lot for me. It really kind of made me it helped me evolve on so many different aspects, also on a personal level. Do you know what I mean? Like, to deal with your fears, deal with your demons when you're jumping on that ring and you got hundreds of people looking at you, and your head is all over the place, and then the bell goes and that's it. Then you're like you can't even hear what's happening around you. You're there, your hands are up, and you're trying to hurt the guy in front of you and not get hurt.
I love that though. It's peaceful. That's like, it's zen. You're right in the moment. You see, everything else just melts away, like you say, because
that is one thing. Yeah, that is one thing.
Right. In traditional Zen teaching, you know, the master will walk around and like whack you with a bamboo stick to like shock you and bring you back. And the whole point of that is to bring you back into the moment. It's no different. If you're in a ring or a cage and you've got someone in front of you trying to smash your face in, I guarantee you are not anywhere else.
You can only be in the moment. And that's why you think adrenal sports, you know, sports that will create adrenaline. People that are going towards these sort of extreme sports, even the guys that are free climbing mountains, like amazing guys, like climbing the mountains, is because of the adrenaline. But why? Because it brings them into the present moment. And that is what people are addicted to, the present moment. If you read the book Eckhart Tolle, you know, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and he mentions that he's like, you know, people that actually seek these type of extreme sports is because of the adrenaline, because it puts them in the present moment. And in the present moment, all the worries, all the mind is gone. The only thing that you have is what's in front of you, and you have to deal with it because you have no other choice. If you don't, you die. You know?
Oh, mate, it's when I was saying before, I mean, most of the time that is very much my experience, brings me deeply in the present moment, and I just enjoy it. And I tell you what, I've done it like, I've honestly, I lost count, including like amateur bouts. I've had like 50 or something sort of professional or unlicensed fights across the range. Like a lot of that was boxing and kickboxing. I had a handful of professional MMA fights, a couple of bare knuckle bouts, K1 bout, and then most of it was kickboxing or unlicensed boxing with gloves. Oh man, I just lost my thread a little bit there. So
we were talking about adrenaline. We're talking about being present, being in the moment.
Right. So basically, I've done it hundreds of times, and even like the last time I was fighting, I was like, "Why have you done this to yourself? Why are you here with the adrenal buildup before? It's horrible." And you're like, "What the hell am I doing here? What am I doing? When am I going to learn?" You know, and I'm in a terrible state until the bell rings and the first punch goes in. You get hit once, and it's like, and then you settle into it. And it's like, oh, I remember now. I love this. And then I'm really, so there's that side of it, which is quite cool. When I was really, really struggling with depression in my early to mid 20s, no, actually before that, started to turn around then. Started to turn around then. It was worse in my mid to late teens, early 20s. Okay. But there would be times where, even when I was in the ring, and I was in an absolute war, even then my head wouldn't turn off. And I was like fighting two people. And they were some of the hardest, loneliest times ever, because it is very lonely in there. You know, if your mind does kick in and start working in a negative manner, and it's all that negative talk is going on while you're in the midst of it, while you're in front of like hundreds or even a couple of thousand people or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a pretty rough experience. And I'm not making any excuses. I've done pretty well, right? I really think I could have done a lot better in the world of like competitive combat sport if I'd managed to get on top of my own head a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Like I learned mechanisms, you know, and ways and things down the road. And I'm in a good place now, and I'm as solid as I ever, you know, could be. And if I could have put my head now on my shoulders then, I think I'd have gone a lot further in the competitive side of things. But yeah, no doubt though, the competitive stuff really, really helps with that. And and then like in terms of being on the door and things, I mean, again, that brings you very much. I mean, you're in a club and it's busy and it's smoking, the strobe lights going, and there's a few hundred people in there, and you're watching all the time, aren't you? You're watching your colleagues, you're watching the dance floor, you're keeping your periphery open. And again, that kind of intense focus, it does give you a break from everything else going on in your life, because
it's true.
Even more so, because if you fuck up there, your friend could get seriously hurt or worse, you know, or a member of the public. So there's more at stake. So it sort of helped. You know, I see some people that just don't seem to get it when they're working. You don't really get it.
That's an interesting point you make here, because I always say, so when we're working, if you do your job right as a doorman, you will be present. You will be in that state of mind where there is no thoughts, because you will always be observing, head on the swivel. You will be observing the movement over there, making eye contact with your colleague number one, making eye contact with your colleague number two. If you can't see colleague number, and you need to have them in the corner of your eyes, so that if they move, you're like, oh, he's moving. Where is he going? Right, he's going to talk to that person. Okay, I'm fixating on that. What? Maybe he needs backup, so I'm starting to walk towards him. Or, do you know what I mean? So you always need to be on the ball. And I'm looking at what people's hands are doing. Want to see 10 digits all the time, weapon printing, or anything sticking out of pockets. Plus we work in a venue where they authorize it. That's one thing I said. I said it to you before. In most of the clubs where I've been working before in Eastern Europe, we didn't authorize the glass bottles, because people were smashing each other up with the glass bottles. But in the club where we're working, everyone's got a glass bottles in their hands. So you got basically multiple armed assailants getting fucked up on drinks and drugs and God knows what, and you don't know when it's going to kick off. So it's knowing this, understanding the importance of the job, of what's happening, of what could happen, and how quickly it could kick off. Because as you know, we both know how quickly it can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a fraction of a second. You know what I mean? So being present is definitely something that helps. I know when I'm on the dance floor with you guys, I'm like, there's no thoughts in my head, because I'm always observing. I'm always doing that work. I'm on code yellow alpha, using the Jeff Cooper's color code. And so it all boils down to mindset, being able to empty the mind. And that's what
I was kind of alluding to earlier, Julian, as well, saying when I'd finished the fighting and stepping back on the doors, whereas I was initially really down about it and everything, it's actually turned out to be a really good thing for my head right now, because that's been a huge shift for me, sort of retiring from competitive combat sport and things after the majority of my lifetime in it. And I had other things like my long-term relationship ended at the end of last year, and et cetera, et cetera. So all the sort of familiar roles gone. And like I say, with the depression and the mental health and things like that, I haven't been medicated for 20 years. I have my ways and my means, my coping system. I have a solid philosophy. And even if I can't feel it at the time, I can sort of, at least sort of lean on the principles that I've got, like, that are sort of in stone. I have that blueprint to return to all the time. But the mindset and sort of doing a job which absolutely demands that I'm in the moment and nowhere else has actually been extremely useful to me. So there are positives from it as well.
It kind of takes you out of your head. That way you're not thinking about your shit. That's the same thing about training and going to the gym and doing your thing, and make sure that you're doing the work, going for a walk or going for a run, is that it takes you away from this world of suffering, this world of where you got that monkey mind, you got that devil on your shoulder talking, rah, 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 you know what I mean? I've been there as well. I've been suffering of depression for pretty much all my life, bro. I'm obviously doing much better. You're gradually getting out of it as you get older, because you start to attach less importance to things that you thought were very important before. But as you get wiser. But I think also that it's all a matter of doing the work. And very often what most people do, it is a human innate reaction to run away from pain, run away from fear. So basically no one wants to face their demons. Everyone wants to run away. Do you know what I mean? So when when you got this, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at my shit. It's there. I know if I would look at it, it's gonna be scary. But it comes with doing the work. And there's various ways. I mean, some people go and see a specialist, and I had, when I was a kid, I had 10 years of psychotherapy. Do you know what I mean?
I like myself, so yeah, I know what you mean.
And then you can go to see a shaman and drink ayahuasca and do that 10 years of therapy in one night. Do you know what I mean?
Or you can end up on the 6 o'clock news, which is more likely if I ever touch that shit.
I've not heard that often with.
I have not had a good time with hallucinogens in my earlier life, mate. So I'm a little bit wary of those, but I know it works extremely well, and I know there are actually loads of scientific studies showing the benefits of I think they're using LSD in microdosing.
Yeah, mushrooms.
I understand that it can be massively helpful, but it also that's maybe not my path. But
Oh, maybe not. You know, we're all different. Like, you know, some people it's calling. I know the jungle, the Peruvian jungle is calling me, man. You know, I've drunk ayahuasca 3 times, but you know, the Peruvian jungle calls me. I need to go there, and you know, I need to go there and drink the real stuff from the jungle, the real viscous stuff that's gonna fuck me up. Not like that in that sense, but you know,
no,
the
I get you.
that make me face my demons once and for all and deal with myself. It's not an easy experience, but it's worth it. It's very worth it. It was for me and most people that I know that have done it as well. It was a very worth it experience. So, regarding mental health, I know that's really what we wanted to talk about. I know that you have various interviews. You want to write a book about it as well. Is that right?
Yeah. The book is going to be just actually mental health is a huge part of it. It's more going to be looking at the sort of the broader sort of benefits, teachings of martial art. Many of the things we've literally just been talking about, you know, staying in the present moment and all the rest of it. And there are so many more aspects to it without going too off the track. But a friend of mine, Chris Sykes, he's written a really good book on the history of pugilism, starting in some ancient like Greco-Roman times and coming all the way through sort of the golden age of pugilism and all the fantastic characters that were there, and right the way up to modern day boxing. And he's also, you know, it's a really, really interesting book. If anyone's got even a passing interest, it's Blood, Brawn, Brains and Broken Noses. And I wrote a little endorsement for that. But it's one of I've read many books on boxing history, and it's highly entertaining. It's not a textbook. It brings all the stories to life. He's a really experienced martial artist himself, dormant himself, etc., etc., etc. And it's just one of the best things I've ever read. So me and him are now talking about putting together a book. It's probably going to be based like my life story, like a little bit of a biography for myself, just because that's a good central thread. And it's there've been a few examples in my life, like a few turning points in my life that were quite traumatic and, you know, cinematic, I suppose. So that it kind of makes for good reading, but we'll be able to get the points across. But yeah, looking at all the stuff we've just been talking about and finding a way out, really. And I did that through martial arts and a couple of near-death experiences as well, which I'd recommend the good near-death experience to anyone if it wasn't for the obvious drawbacks. Like, but but what that does is that drew some boundaries very, very definitively. When you think your life is over in the next 3 seconds and you accept it and you're just like, okay, and then straight away, boom, it's like, then suddenly, you know, you realize you really don't take it with you. It's not just like this little don't take it with you. It's not like a throwaway cliched saying. It's like you don't take it with you. You don't take any of it with you. The only thing you've got, the only thing you'll ever have is the inside of your own head. And you are in 100% control of that, you know? You cannot control your environment, but you can absolutely control your response to it, you know?
Yes.
What can I say?
Tell you what, we got a few projects going on as well. We're thinking about writing a book as well, you and I. So we can talk about that if you want.
Self-protection one?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, just a decent sort of overview and textbook and bullet pointing the important sort of streamlining and distilling the really important aspects of like the soft skills of self-protection, sort of threat awareness, adrenal awareness, conflict management skills, but also decision-making tools, because you and I both know that is absolutely vital, because how many people end up
all that thing. I'm sure the both of us, you know, bring the ideas together, we'll be able to put something really cool. We'll put something together really cool. what I was thinking, what we can talk about maybe, because we kind of flew through all we wanted to talk about pretty fast. It's only 40 minutes through. We don't have to do it
I've
for.
got time, Julian, and I've been like.
I was thinking. So, what about the security training? Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I've started
project
working now as a consultant for a small company at the minute, called Lockdown Security, local company, and bringing yourself on here with the training. But essentially, we're really looking to only recruit suitable people. We don't want shirt fillers, basically. So really, we're looking for people with ex-forces or emergency services or fighters, people with suitable background. And if they don't have that background, if they are of a suitable mindset and they are prepared to come and train and learn, then we will absolutely bring them through. So again, yourself and the stuff that we're covering in the book and the stuff that we're covering in the courses, it's going to be pretty similar stuff, giving everyone a really good grounding. Basically just develop a really. We've already got a solid team locally.
Yeah, we do. That's one thing. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to work with that team, because it's a team that you can count on. I've been working when I started to do the doors in Manchester. Yeah, I mean, I started in Eastern Europe like years ago. Kind of like you, on and off when I was younger. But here in Manchester, for example, I was working at the Beer Killer. I don't know if you know that where that is in Manchester town, next to Shod Hill station, and I was there, and we were getting different agency lads every weekend, and the type of people we were getting. And I had to contact the boss of I'm not going to mention who, but I was like, dude, you gotta make sure that you're sending us some decent lads, because quite a few times shit had kicked off and I jumped in it, and I look around and I've seen two of my colleagues just fucking off to the toilet, and I clearly seen them seeing me. Do you know what I mean? And then I go and see them after. What happened, mate? Do you know, I needed you right there. And it's the thing. If you work as a doorman, you want to make sure that you got a strong team, a team that you can trust. Do you know what I mean? People that you can work together. And when I work with you guys, it's great, because we're all either instructors or fighters or ex-military or close protection operatives, or all people with experience dealing with adrenaline.
Yeah, man, it's like when something has kicked off, it's like it's not even spoken. It's like straight away the first people who are dealing with the incident, and then everyone else is already stepped back watching the periphery. It's like you feel completely at ease.
Yeah,
it's like,
yes, we know what we're doing. That's the
everyone just slots into position, because obviously when something happens, it's not like you have time to organize it. Everyone just innately knows the first 2 or 3 on the scene are physically dealing with that. Everybody else is watching the periphery and keeping an eye on that.
And that is where the training comes into play. That is where the courses that we provide come into play, so that people know how to work as a team. Know, if you're a head doorman, know how to manage your team, know who's, look at people's individual strength, who is good at talking, who's got good customer service, good communication skills, who is more patient, who is less patient, who is big and can really handle shit, who is short and can take people down if need be. We know who is doing what. We can build the team, and we can, and then, learn to work as a team, as you say. So how many times have you seen people, especially in the police forces, how many times have you seen like 5 police officers and 1 guy all disturbing themselves? They don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they can't even 5 of them can't even manage to handcuff the guy. When it takes two people. It takes 2 people to take someone out. If the guy is big, okay, maybe 3, but you need to know exactly what you're doing. If there is a 4th and a 5th person, they will be standing around, make sure that, their colleagues are working safe. When we get the person up, we got 2 people on him. We got 1 guy that's tactile with his hand on the shoulder, spreading the crowd, opening doors. Do you know what I mean? That is tactical. That is when you got the tactics, when you got the strategy behind everything, and that's where our training comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that we've got we are training as a team every single week, And yes, they are training in some of the combat sports stuff, but we are doing specific stuff like combatives and specifically the sort of stuff we're going to be covering on the course and the online tutorials. So it's like we've really almost created a syllabus there of sort of high percentage stuff, high percentage go-to maneuvers, and everyone's drilled on them and everyone knows what they're doing. And the fact that we are training as a unit and we are doing like live drills where we will sort of simulate a fight and have the lads come in and break it up as if they were working, and then at random other people get involved. So if the guys aren't watching the periphery and etc. So we actually run drills like that to simulate that sort of thing. And it pays dividends. It definitely does. And I'm going to continue with that, forevermore. I mean, ultimately, what I'm looking to do is get my hip fixed and get back to the film and TV work, because that's my love and that's where the money is as well. But,
let's speak about that. So the thing is, I got introduced to you by our dear friend Carlos, that we miss very much because he's not been around too much lately, but I'm sure we're going to see him at some point soon.
Sure, yeah.
And Ray Nicholas, the legendary Ray Nicholas, that I'm going to be interviewing soon, that's been working on most of the major Hollywood movies and that you've been working with for years. So tell us about your career in stunts, in fight choreography and stunt for the movies and the TV and
Sure.
music. We've done a few music videos, you and I as well.
That's been good. And obviously, we do, as well as we cover everything at my gym, from the very, very real, like street combatives, right the way through to the other end of the spectrum, which is fight choreography for film and TV. So understanding the camera angles and how we do it in the movies. Myself and often Ray are teaching that. Ray's a bit of a legend. He's been in the game like 30 odd years. He's working with Jackie Chan, worked with Van Damme. He's done Bond. He's done Bourne, Titanic, Gladiator, Batman. He goes on.
All them.
My favourite scene, I think, ever though, is the one on the first season of Gangs of London, where he was one of the bad guys' henchmen, and he went nuts with the shotgun in the gypsy camp, and just it's like that was a bit of the real Ray there. It's like I enjoyed that. It was a great, seriously, that was an awesome scene, very John Woo, very cool. So Ray really got me into it. I mean, the first thing I ever did. Here's funny stories. I've obviously always been hugely into martial arts movies and things. Like I said, pray to Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan at Christmas. Massive inspiration to me. So I've always had an interest in going that way. But it's my friend Lee Charles was the first person that ever got me involved. He had a music video he was doing. Lee featured heavily in Gangs of London. He was the big Lenny the Butcher, the big guy with the meat cleaver that had a fight with the main character in the second episode. Yeah. Lee's been in all sorts. He had a fight with David Batista, the wrestler, in Final Score, and Lee's working all the time, man. He's doing very well in the business. But he was getting started about 2007, 2008, and he got let down for someone on a music video. And I got a desperate call at like 7 a.m. saying, "Can I make it down to Liverpool by, like 10?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So I flew down there, had a great time. The video never got released, so who knows? It might come out one day. But there was myself and the free running champion. His name escapes me, Ryan. Oh my God. I've been hitting the head too many times. Good job I retired. He has to forgive me. World free running champion, parkour guy, very, very good. And he's now a full British register. Sorry?
Was he a French guy?
No. He's a Scouser.
Right.
Oh man, what's his name?
Don't worry about it if you don't find it, man.
Sorry, Ryan. Anyway, that was one of the first things we ever did. And then I didn't really touch it again for a fair few years. And then a friend of mine's daughter from karate, she was doing social media for a company called the Wreck My Dress Company. And the idea was it was like a kind of a Hollywood experience kind of a company. I don't know if anything happen with it in the long term, if it's still going or what. But they had it was Kim Marsh from Coronation Street, and she was in here saying things. It was her and her daughter. They were part of the company. And they had this big launch for it, and it was covered by all the sort of national press, like OK Magazine, or Hello Magazine were there, and various other people, and they had celebrities in the audience and blah, blah, blah. And it was a live stunt. Basically, it was a kind of a James Bond kind of a gig, and I ended up being the bad guy in that, funnily enough.
You always felt being the bad guy when you're a beginner, innit?
I've got a flat nose, the cauliflower ear, so I don't think I'm born to be the henchman, aren't I? Like a professional henchman or bad guy or whatever. So at least I was the main guy this time. And we did this little James Bond skit where there's the parties going on, and my minions are there disguised as waiters, and then all of a sudden explosions are going off, and the audience didn't know this was going to happen, so it took them completely by surprise. And then I have this, I steal, I grab a girl out the crowd, and I steal this valuable dress from the royal wedding that was on display, because the Wreck My Dress company, blah, blah, blah. And I make off with the girl and the dress, and then this guy who looked like he was an electrician or something in overalls, he makes the heroic comeback, does the old James Bond bit, and I end up in a fight scene with him, and then he beats me up, and I pull a gun on him. But it went perfect in all the rehearsals, and the fight scene on the night was perfect, absolutely perfect, and the crowd were like, wow. And then they got a bit confused, and this is where I learned to always have a plan B, especially on live stuff, because it gets to the point where I'm supposed to pull the gun on him, and my henchman that's dressed as a waiter passes me like a drinks tray, and I'm like, the fuck is this? He goes, where's the gun? He's like, I don't know, mate, I've lost it. I'm like, oh my God. And I turned around and I thought, do I hit him with it? But we've not rehearsed anything. What if I take his teeth out? But, it all goes through my mind really quickly. And so I sort of just ended up threatening him with this tray. And the audience were a bit like taken aback by that, a bit confused. And luckily a massive pyrotechnic goes off, and we kind of fudged away through it. And so afterwards, I just wanted to die, to be honest. I wanted the world to swallow me up. But basically, Ray Nick was the coordinator on that, the stunt coordinator, and a guy called Paul Flanagan is a good friend as well. And there was another British stuntman there, Gary Kane, who was doing the fire safety. Gary's really well known as well.
Yeah. And
I got on with them all really well, and particularly got to know Ray and Paul, who become two of my best friends. And then sort of edged into the world from there, because about 6 months later, by pure coincidence, serendipity, Ray phones me up and says, you live in New Mills, don't you? Which is a little town in Derbyshire where I was at the time. So yeah, he says, we're filming there. I'm like, what? And it's a tiny town. I'm like, what are you filming? And it was a period drama for the BBC called The Village. And the opening scene of the second season had a boxing match in it. So they wanted someone local to train all the actors in boxing. So Ray put me forward, and I got that gig. And then as it progressed, they were like, John, we need someone to play the referee who knows what they're doing. You up for it? I was like, yeah. So I got this incredible wig, ginger wig with the curtains and the 1920s.
Yeah, I remember you got the moustache on there, the ginger moustache.
I'm definitely not a moustache guy, mate. Anytime I have a moustache, I just look like I shouldn't be allowed within 5 miles of a school. So yeah. But I get paid enough to look like an idiot. So fair enough.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah. And then I progressed from there. Ray introduced me to my friend Pete Miles, who is a huge stunt coordinator. He's just done the latest Fast and Furious film, Fast 10, and I had a little bit on that. And I showed him the videos of you working the fight choreography with Chris Painter, and at mine and Ray's last seminar, and he was highly impressed. Yeah, I told you that. I gave you the props. You're getting up there, bro. So tweak it a bit more, and we're there, mate. We're there. So and I highly recommend it, by the way. But yeah, so Ray introduced me to Pete, and he gave me a tryout on a TV show for Sky Atlantic called Penny Dreadful, which was cool. Really great series, and that was cool because I've been a massive fan of the show, and I'd watched the show religiously. And then I got a phone call like, "Do you want to come and work on this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." It's one of the few times I actually did get a little bit starstruck when I walked on the set. And it was like a gothic Victorian horror series with all the characters from the old Penny Dreadful books of the day. So Dracula, Frankenstein, Dorian Gray, all that. and like walked on set into Frankenstein's laboratory that I've been watching on TV for the past year. And it's like, wow, you know, just for a moment, I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's one of the only few times I've had a moment, you know. Anyway, I did a little bit on that. I had a brief scuffle with James Bond with Timothy Dalton, which was cool. And my son is big time into James Bond films, so he thinks it's quite cool that I've mixed it up with James Bond, all for like 2 beats, and he killed me. But you know, hey,
Yeah.
And then Wes Studi as well, who was really cool. So Wes Studi is Mogwai in Last of the Mohicans, and he was just a really cool, funny bloke. Did an amazing impersonation of Ray as well, which was good. But he beats me up in one scene and throws me across an alleyway, and you know. So yeah, that was a really great experience. Met some wicked people. All the Irish lads and ladies, the stunt guys over there, absolutely amazing. So just slot straight.
Which like most popular actors you've been working with then?
Wow, loads. I mean, so I've just done, like I said, done a little bit on Fast 10. Although
Fast and Furious 10, yeah.
Yeah, can't say too much about that. I didn't work with any. I did do a couple of scenes with the main actors, but we were working with the stunt doubles rather than actually them. But I'll talk about the stuff that's been released. So Penny Dreadful, you had Timothy Dalton, Josh Hartnett, Wes Studi. Went on to Into the Badlands. Pete had me back a few years later for that. I was on that for a long time. So that was with Daniel Wu, who has obviously done a lot of work with Jackie Chan, was part of his team for many years.
Yeah.
And Simon Pegg's mate, Nick Frost, and he's a cool guy. Just basically exactly the same off screen, off set that as he is on. He just does himself but a bit bigger on TV, and he was hilarious. So it was great to work with him. And Sherman Augustus, who is he played a character called Nathaniel Moon in that, and he's been on loads of stuff. He was in Westworld. He's most recently been on Stranger Things.
Oh yeah,
the military captain that came in on the last sort of hunting 11, and you know, and he is like
the Stranger Things was amazing. Like, I've watched it all, man.
And he's the coolest, nicest guy. And it's like still, I worked with him on a scene for like 2 weeks, right? So just a random stunt guy, 2 weeks, and he's still every now and then. You know what we on? We must be 2018, 2019. So. You know, we're talking like 5 years, 4 or 5 years later, he still gets in touch on my birthday, you know, happy birthday on my birthday on all my social media, and chips in on the odd post and things. It's like, just again, very cool, down to earth guy, and good physical guy as well, good martial artist. I think he was a former American football player, if I remember rightly, from speaking to him.
Okay.
He was a fascinating bloke to meet. So yeah, I'm fast forward a little bit, otherwise it'll take forever, but Pete had me back again to work on Dungeons and Dragons for quite a while as well. That's due out in March.
Yeah.
Fast 10, which is due out in May. And then for some other coordinators, which was Nicky Powell. So the Powells are like a legendary family in the stunt world. Greg Powell and Gary Powell. So it was working with Nicky and Peter White, who's another friend of Ray's, and they pinched me and did a TV show called Citadel, which is, I don't know if I'm even going to be in that, because apparently, again, I can't say too much about it, but they're pretty much reshooting the whole thing as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
So that is what it is. Maybe I'll have bits in it, maybe I won't, but I worked on that for a good few months. That was cool. That was with Richard Madden, who was Jon Snow in Game of Thrones and Icarus in Marvel's Eternals. So yeah, there's another big star. Had some scenes with him. He was a lovely dude. And then went straight from that on to Ridley Scott's new film, Napoleon, which is due out in the summer. So yeah, I've been a busy boy for the last few years. Yeah. And the other thing as well is, apparently, I don't even sort of tempt fate here, but I had quite a large part to play in the new documentary on World's Strongest Man, Eddie Hall.
Oh, Eddie Hall, yeah.
So he actually came to my gym and he was training with Ray and myself, and we were showing him how to do the fight choreography for film and TV, because Eddie's actually started moving into the world of film and TVs. He's in Expendables 4. He's got a part in that.
He?
And yeah. Okay. And again, a friend of mine, Billy Clements, who's obviously a huge unit, he actually doubled for Eddie a little bit on that. So, you know, I wish him well with that. He, again, just such a lovely guy, very, very down to earth, and pleasure to work with. So we filmed the scene with Eddie because it's a documentary about his life. And again, it actually, I had no idea when we were working on the film, but it's about his battle with mental health.
Yeah.
So again, very, very sort of, you know, relevant to what we've been talking about today. And I mean, despite that, he still managed to become the world's strongest man, and, you know, perform incredibly.
He's an impressive dude, isn't he? Like, I've seen videos of him taking the piss about that Middle Eastern massive guy there. He's wearing some sort of sumo costume and goes like this.
Yeah, no, he's a funny guy, and I like to say, his achievements are all the more impressive knowing what he went through, and that's what the movie apparently kind of morphed into it as we were filming. Because originally, when we were filming, the whole crux of it was Eddie Hall meeting his hero Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because, as I said, Eddie's making the transition over into action movies, and he wanted to speak to his friend Arnold about how he transitioned from bodybuilding to being arguably the world's biggest action star. And then, as the filming went along, I think the theme of mental health was coming forward more and more and more, and that's where the documentary and the emphasis has shifted. And I think it's going to be an even more fascinating thing to watch. That is slated for release in May, so it may come out in May. I don't know what platform it'll come out on, no idea. The original one's on Netflix, so maybe there, I don't know. And also, I just hope it gets released one day, because it got slowed up with COVID. COVID hit in the middle of it and nearly derailed it. It's just great that it's all back on track, and it'll happen at some point in time. But we got to recreate that, like the iconic scene out of Terminator Terminator 2. You know, I want your clothes, your boots, your motorcycle, that one. And I'm the guy he says it to. Yeah, that's the one. I'm that guy. So I want your clothes. I was like, why? You know what I mean? It's like about 30 besides, but it is a bit of artistic license in the film and things like that. Because it's a bit of a dream sequence. It's not supposed to be a real, like, serious thing. It's just there. So that was a really cool thing to do. And basically, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, but my intention, after I've gotten my hip replaced at the hopefully summer this year, it's going to take me about a year, I reckon, to get back to full fitness. But mark my words, I will rehab and get back to full fitness. I will get back to my happy place of kicking people in the head again and lifting heavy weights, and I'm even going to be allowed to do a little bit of running. I've checked this all out with the consultants, but I am going to be sidelined for a while. So that's when I'll be probably concentrating on doing the bulk of the work on the book I mentioned with Chris Sykes, the Broken Brain, Broken Noses. And obviously, you know, you and I have got the dates booked in to start the photography shoots and things for our books. So again, come the summer, we can be putting the finish. I can dedicate myself to that while I'm off my feet. Got to keep myself busy. But no, I will, like I say, I'll get back to full fitness and then some. And then I'm going to be looking to do my other qualifications and ideally become a fully carded member of the British Stunt Register.
I'm interested in doing that with you at some point as well, when I can, you know, when I set other things.
I need to come in.
How much does it cost then to become? What do you need actually to get onto the British Stunt Register?
Oh man, they changed it recently. So there's a provisional register, which I will go on straight away. I think you just need the one or maybe two qualifications. I've got two of the qualifications anyway.
What qualifications are there?
Various ones. So you've got to have one from the fighting category, but they say you can only have one martial art. So if I could have more than one martial art, I'd be qualified on martial art alone. You got to have like at least a brown belt in like kickboxing or whatever. So there's martial arts and boxing and fencing is on there and things like that. And then you've got like the transport section where you've got like either rally driving or motocross or horse riding, I think comes under that. And again, they've got their own sort of specific tests. It's all high level stuff, Climbing, for instance, climbing is on there. You need to be a climbing instructor. Scuba diving is on there. You need like a dive master qualification. Gymnastics, you've got to have something from the tumbling and falling section. So I will be looking at trampolining just because it's the safest option for my hip. I've got like average gymnastic ability. I can kip up, I can somersault off a springboard, I can do bits and bats like that. But it's something that I want to develop, for myself, just because it's cool. Yeah. But I will be going for like the trampolining side of things because trying to avoid. I've been told that when I've had the replacement, it will ultimately be fine. But still, I'd rather avoid any.
Yeah. You want to make sure that new hip lasts.
Trying, you know. So I mean, that's my sort of my ultimate plans and my plans for the future. Obviously, like I say, here and now I'm involved. My gym is exceptionally busy. I'm over the moon to say, and I just have the best clientele as well. You know, I really do have the best clientele. It's just a great environment. It's very much a happy place. You know, every time I go into the gym, the world makes sense for a few hours. So I've got my gym, I've got the security side of things, which, like I said, I'm enjoying more than I realised I was going to, which is pleasant. And then I will get back to the film and TV stuff. Although, like I say, that's going to. If I can squeeze, I'm due a cortisone injection next week, and that usually gives me some relief for sort of 3 or 4 months. So if I can squeeze, if there's anything about and I can jump on something and get a little bit of work in before I get the chop, then great. And if not, I will rehab. I will crack on with doing my other different disciplines for the stunt register, and I will, I'm going to make it happen anyway. You know.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Sounds
there
good.
You go.
Well, listen, that was a good little insight into your life. A lot of interesting things, man. I'm sure that we could do that again at some point soon. Should we wrap up for today then?
Probably should, because for my sins, I'm going to be teaching and then back on the door again, of course. Yep. So yeah. But Julien, thanks for having me on, mate. Always a pleasure to chat.
Problems, brother.
I really enjoyed these podcasts you're doing with the other guests, and I look forward
we'll
to.
We'll do more and more. Like I said, I got some really good people coming on. I'm not gonna say, but I got a few people lined up, so which is good. Tell you what. So, in order to wrap up, do you want to let people know where they can find you? Have you got a website? Have you got a Instagram, Facebook? Where can people find you?
Absolutely. So, my business site on Facebook and on Instagram is just very simply John Santry Martial Arts. That's JONSANTRY Martial Arts. My website is www.johnsantrymartialarts.co.uk. I've got a personal page on Instagram as well, which is Jonathan Santry, and again, that's fine. You know, it's all, you know, it's personable more than personal, like, you know, but it's still social media, it's still public, isn't it?
Sure.
But yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, I am based in the High Peak in Derbyshire in England. If anyone in that area is interested in training, and like I said, the gym would cover competitive kickboxing and K1, MMA, and then obviously the real life sort of street self-protection combatives. Can do courses for workplaces and you know, corporate gigs. We've done a few of those. They're good. So yeah, if anyone's interested in any of that, please find me on those links and come and say hi. And again, mate, thanks for your time, Julien.
No problems, bro. I will see you very soon, man.
Cheers, bro. You gonna wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say a few words. If you want to go, I'm just gonna finish by saying a few words on my own. So it's cool, man.
Oh, go ahead, bro. Yeah. Go ahead, and then
just you know, just kind of tooting my horn as well. Toot, toot, you know, just saying people that want to learn self-protection in the Manchester area. So, you know, we're Adrenaline Combatives. The website is not done yet. It's about 75-80% done, but it's going to be released in the next month or two. And there's going to be a lot of courses on it. There's going to be a lot of corporate packages. There's going to be a lot of things to come for 2023. We got seminars coming up. We got a seminar every month. We got Lee Morrison coming to Manchester on the 7th of May. for a seminar. That's a Sunday, so that'll be not to be missed as well. And we got Peter Ciara from Melbourne, Australia, from the founder of ICS, that is coming on the 7th and 8th of October for a seminar, which is probably going to happen at your gym, John.
Yeah,
So
I'm really looking forward.
yeah, I've never met him, but he's one of the best guys in the business. So yeah, definitely looking forward to meet him.
But Lee and Peter both superb. So really looking forward to training with them. And of course, I will be bringing my lads down to train with yourselves on your own. If I can ever get off the door and stop working or looking after kids. But,
For sure, man. No problem, brother. Then I shall let you go, and I'll see you very soon.
Thank you, my friend. You take care now.
Brother,
Cheers.
man. Take care.
Bye, mate.